My ex-wife made the courts think I was dangerous to my son. Then his 18th birthday party exposed my ex-wife's 18-year secret. I, 45M, never thought I'd be sharing this story, but after what happened at my son's 18th birthday party last weekend, I need to get this off my chest. The weight of it is crushing me, and I honestly don't know who to turn to anymore. For 12 years, I fought tooth and nail through the courts for custody of my son. My ex-wife painted me as unstable, aggressive, and unfit to be a father. The worst part? Everyone believed her. My own parents questioned if I was telling the truth. Only my sister stood by me, but even she couldn't understand why I was so adamant about getting custody when shared custody was on the table. Just take what you can get, she'd tell me. Something is better than nothing, but I couldn't. Something in my gut wouldn't let me give up. The custody battle started when he was 6. It began with small things, my ex claiming I had anger issues and shouldn't be trusted with overnight visits. She had a way of twisting everything. That time I raised my voice during an argument about being late to pick him up became violent outbursts. The cookie jar I accidentally knocked over while reaching for the phone became throwing things in rage. The court-appointed supervisor during my visits wrote reports that always seemed to favor her side, noting how tense our interactions were. Of course they were tense. Try acting natural when someone's watching your every move, writing down everything you say to your own child. I spent every penny I had on lawyers, moved out of our 3-bedroom house into a tiny 1-room apartment so I could afford the legal fees, took extra shifts at work, sold my car for a cheaper model, cut every expense I could. I went to anger management classes I didn't need, attended parenting courses, and jumped through every hoop they put in front of me, all while my ex kept moving the goalposts. She'd agree to something, then claim I violated some minor rule, and use it to restrict my access again. The worst was when she claimed I'd threatened her new boyfriend. I hadn't even met the guy, just saw him picking up my son from school one day when it was supposed to be my afternoon. I called her to ask what was going on, and next thing I know, she's filing for an emergency protection order, claiming I'd made threatening gestures at her boyfriend. It took 3 months and another $5,000 in legal fees to get that straightened out. My son grew up thinking I was the bad guy. During our supervised visits, he was always guarded, watching me like he expected me to explode at any moment. He'd flinch if I moved too quickly to hug him. Wouldn't tell me about his day unless the supervisor specifically asked him to share. It broke my heart, but I kept fighting. Something deep inside told me I couldn't give up. I missed so much of his life. First day of middle school, I saw the photos on my ex's Facebook. His first baseball game? Found out about it a week later when my sister mentioned it. Every time I tried to be involved, there was some reason I couldn't be there. Either it wasn't my day, or there was some school policy about non-custodial parents, or my ex would claim she'd forgotten to tell me about it. The breakthrough came 3 years ago when my ex remarried. She got sloppy, started missing court dates. Her new husband didn't like dealing with the ongoing legal drama, and suddenly she was more willing to negotiate. I finally got unsupervised weekends. It was like starting from scratch. My son was 15 by then, more interested in his phone than bonding with his part-time dad, as he called me once. But we started building something. Small steps. I learned about his favorite games, started playing them myself so we'd have something to talk about. Found out he was into photography, bought him his first real camera. Things were finally looking up. Last Saturday was my son's 18th birthday. My ex surprisingly agreed to a joint celebration at my house. First time she'd set foot in my place since the divorce. I'd moved back into a proper house by then, worked my way up at the company, finally felt like I was getting my life back on track. Everything was going fine. We were all being civil. My son was actually smiling, showing everyone the photos he'd taken with that camera. Then he opened his gift from his maternal grandmother, a DNA test kit. One of those ancestry ones that are popular now. His grandmother thought it would be fun to trace his heritage. The look on my ex's face. I'll never forget it. She tried to play it cool, but I saw the panic in her eyes. She started making excuses about why he shouldn't do it right away, suggesting they save it for later, trying to redirect his attention to other gifts. But that just made him more curious. My son, picking up on the weird tension, insisted on doing it right then. Said he'd always been curious about his background, especially since we'd been doing that genetics unit in his AP bio class. As he was swabbing his cheek, my ex pulled me aside and broke down. Through tears, she confessed what I think I'd known deep down all those years. He wasn't biologically mine. She'd had a brief affair before our wedding, found out she was pregnant, and convinced herself it was mine. When he was born, she realized from certain features that he couldn't be, but by then she said she was in too deep. The custody battle wasn't about keeping me from my son. It was about keeping her secret. Every restriction, every accusation, every court filing. It was all to keep me from somehow finding out the truth. I walked back into that party and watched my son seal up that test kit, my whole world spinning. 12 years of fighting, of being painted as the villain, of missing soccer games and school plays and bedtime stories. All because she couldn't face the truth. All those nights I lay awake wondering why she was fighting so hard to keep me away. All those times I questioned if maybe everyone else was right and I was the problem. It all suddenly made sense in the worst possible way. My son still doesn't know. The test results won't come for a few weeks. My ex begged me not to tell him, said it would destroy him, said we should wait for the results and figure out how to break it to him gently. But how do you gently tell your child that their whole life is built on a lie? I've been going through old photos since the party, looking at his baby pictures, trying to see what she saw that told her the truth. Was it his eyes? His smile? How did I not see it? Then I remember, I didn't see it because I wasn't looking for it. I was just loving my son. The past few days have been hell. I haven't slept properly since the party. Every time I close my eyes, I see all those courtrooms, all those supervisors, all those evaluations and assessments and reports. I see my son's face when he was 7, asking me why I didn't love him enough to behave so I could see him more. I see my ex smirking across the courtroom when another judgment went her way. I see my bank account draining, my lawyer shaking his head, my parents questioning my sanity for not giving up. My sister says I should wait for the results, says there's still a chance my ex is wrong. But I saw her face when that kit came out. That wasn't the face of someone who had a doubt. That was raw panic. My son keeps texting, asking why I've been quiet since the party. He thinks he did something wrong. Meanwhile, my ex is blowing up my phone with messages begging me to let her handle it her way. Says she's sorry, says she never meant for it to go this far, says she just got trapped in the lie and couldn't find a way out. The hardest part isn't even the betrayal. It's realizing that all those years when I thought I was fighting for my rights as a father, I was actually fighting for a truth I didn't even know existed. Every time I insisted on more visitation, every time I demanded to be included in school decisions, every time I fought another evaluation, I was getting closer to exposing her lie, and she knew it. That's why she fought so hard. That's why nothing I did was ever good enough. I look at my son's latest text message, "Dad, are you mad at me about something?" And I don't know what to say. How do I tell him that everything he's been through, all the therapy sessions, all the supervised visits, all the tension and fear and doubt, it was all because his mother couldn't bear to face the truth? How do I tell him that the man he spent years being afraid of, the man he was told he needed to be protected from, was fighting so hard because he loved a child that wasn't even his? Part of me wants to be angry at my ex, wants to sue her for every penny I spent on lawyers, every moment I lost with my son, every bit of damage she did to our relationship. But what would that accomplish? It won't give me back those years. It won't heal my son's trauma. It won't change the fact that, biology or not, he's still my son. I've been sitting here for hours, staring at my phone, trying to figure out what to do. My ex keeps sending messages, long paragraphs about how sorry she is, how she'll make it right, how we need to think about our son first. As if she's ever thought about anyone but herself. My sister's calling too, wanting to know what's wrong, why I'm not returning anyone's calls. And my son just sent another message. "Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Can we talk?" Update. A lot of people are asking about legal action. Right now, that's the last thing on my mind. My focus is on my son and how to handle this with the least amount of damage to him. He didn't ask for any of this, and he shouldn't have to pay for his mother's mistakes. As for me, I'm still processing. 12 years of fighting suddenly makes sense, but I wish it didn't. I know I need to respond to my son soon. He doesn't deserve to think he did something wrong. But every time I start typing, I realize I don't know what's worse, keeping this secret for a few more weeks, or telling him now and watching his world fall apart. Either way, I feel like I'm failing him again. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this story, please hit that subscribe button. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share it with friends or family who might enjoy it too. Your support means a lot. And if you have any thoughts, questions, or story ideas, drop them in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. See you in the next story.